Symphony for the City of the Dead is a historical nonfiction book by American author M.T. Anderson, published in 2015. Though aimed at young adult readers, it delves into the harrowing tale of the 3-year siege of Leningrad during World War II and how Dmitri Shostakovich, a Leningrad resident, channeled the suffering of the city into a symphony that became a rallying cry for Soviet troops. The book not only highlights the immense hardship inflicted by the German army on the Eastern Front, but also explores the oppressive atmosphere of Stalinist Russia. The author begins by providing background on Shostakovich's life before the war and the German siege of Leningrad. In the early 1930s, Shostakovich had a promising career within an artistic community in Russia that was relatively open to experimentation, at least compared to the political climate that would follow. However, by 1936, it became clear that artists had to tread carefully to avoid provoking Soviet General Secretary Joseph Stalin and his most zealous supporters. That year, Stalin attended a performance of Shostakovich's opera Lady Macbeth of the Mtsensk district. Shostakovich was present and grew anxious as he noticed Stalin's displeasure with certain aspects of the music, such as a brass section deemed too loud. When Stalin's dislike became public, critics who had previously praised the opera were forced to recant, acknowledging the flaws highlighted by Pravda, the Communist Party's official newspaper. Shostakovich, in many ways, became a symbol to deter other artists, like filmmaker Sergei Eisenstein, from creating work that might upset Stalin's sensibilities. As a result, the composer's income plummeted by 75%, and his highly anticipated Fourth Symphony would not be performed for another 25 years. When it finally premiered, Anderson notes that it sounded as if the composer, having been brutalized, now turns and enacts this savagery upon the audience. Desperate for income, Shostakovich altered his style and composed his Fifth Symphony, which was far more conservative than his earlier work. The regime found it acceptable, and it became a huge success. In 1941, war broke out between Germany and the Soviet Union. Shostakovich was living in Leningrad when the city was besieged by Nazi Germany on September 8, 1941. In addition to near-constant artillery bombardments, all supply routes for food and utilities were cut off. While the Soviets managed to establish a meager supply route to prevent total collapse, thousands starved, and many others resorted to horrific acts of cannibalism. The siege's final death toll exceeded 1 million Soviet citizens, with at least 800,000 of them being civilians. Amid this unimaginable horror, Shostakovich is believed to have composed several movements of his Seventh Symphony, also known as the Leningrad Symphony. However, some historians argue that Shostakovich began composing the symphony before the German invasion, which would suggest that the music's haunting themes of terror and suffering may have originally reflected the oppressive atmosphere of Stalinist Russia. In this interpretation, Shostakovich may have later pointed to Hitler and European fascism as the inspiration for the work. Regardless of its origins, the symphony became a source of solace and inspiration for the people of Leningrad and the Soviet Union. It was even performed by starving musicians in Leningrad. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union worked hard to promote the symphony in the United States to strengthen the wartime alliance. This illustrates the complex nature of the symphony, which may have been conceived as a critique of Stalin, but was ultimately co-opted by Stalinist Russia as a propaganda tool. As Anderson notes, Shostakovich managed to relocate farther east before the worst of the suffering during the siege. Yet the author vividly details the horrors endured by those who had no choice but to stay. In the early stages, only pets were consumed, but it wasn't long before sickly children were also eaten. Police stations even kept crates of small clothing items sorted by the district where the remains of the children were found. Anderson's book captures this gruesome brutality alongside the transcendent beauty of Shostakovich's music, showcasing the stark contrast between human suffering and the power of art in the face of unimaginable adversity. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.